Ladies, I want to introduce you to Dr. Lori Pushkar. And we need to speak because we're talking about miscarriages. And unfortunately, as we get older, experience these miscarriages, they can be devastating. And we feel like time isn't on our side. Is it because of our age? Is it because of this or that? And so I wanted to speak with her directly. One, she's very well respected in my community, but she actually has a protocol that she uses to help women diagnose why they had the miscarriage, but more importantly, to help you prevent, from having one in the first place where it is preventable. So with that, Dr. Lori, would you please introduce yourself and just tell us who you are and how you got in this field anyway?
Absolutely. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, of course. This is such an honor. This is my favorite group. So when women and babies is really where it's all at for me. And then realizing disagreed with the medical model, and then it turned into becoming a chiropractor because I knew I could help naturally, whether pregnant moms, anyone could be helped by that.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, and we're going to talk, this is one of the key secrets of what we need to discuss today, is unfortunately, chiropractic doesn't work as well as it did 100 years ago as it does today.
Mm.
And I am a perfectionist, and whether that's a good thing or not, this is what saved both myself, my family, and of course, thousands of patients, throughout the years and, across the country is what happened and why did the chiropractic adjustment or why wasn't my chiropractic care as effective as I wanted it to be? And that is where I opened up the can of worms of nutrition and functional medicine and literally have been perfecting that for 3 decades now.
Wow.
And now that I know, I'm 100% certain of what got us into this situation. And of course, I share that, with all of my patients. We'll be talking about that again today as well. And so, yeah, all of the secrets I'm going to share with you because my secrets are your secrets. Because of course, what could be more important or better than a baby, in the future generations? So that's how I got to where I am today.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we are glad about it because we just need more practitioners that actually care and will not blame you for your age for even trying. And unfortunately, a lot of ladies are being poo-pooed out their doctor's office because, oh, you should have tried sooner, you're too
Mhm.
old, instead of just giving them the tools to give them a chance.
Of course, absolutely.
All right. So let's dive into it. So
Sure.
miscarriages.
Yes.
What, let's just start with this. So, what are some common misconceptions about miscarriages?
Um, the first thing, like you had just said, is it's quote your fault. I never get into blame, shame, or regret. We were just talking quickly before we started this. It sounds very cold-hearted, but if you can kind of disconnect yourself from what occurred a little bit as a person, as a woman, and then just realize there was some part of the machine that needed a little bit more help that when conception occurred, it didn't get. And if that's easier said than done. I totally understand that. So the goal is then, well, the positive thing is that you can conceive because some women, we'll talk a little bit about that today, is like the IVF and other situations, is let's take a win on the fact that you could conceive. And then now what we need to know is like, why did the body decide not to hold the pregnancy to full term? And if you take a look at it in a very like just basic kind of nerdy, logical, scientific, arena, then all you need to do is find the root cause. And of course, that's what functional medicine is all about.
Yeah.
But the medical model, like you said, wipes you off. So the misconception is there's nothing that can be done about it. There's nothing other solution than, in vitro or freezing, eggs or donors or surrogates or whatever. So all of those misconceptions, it doesn't have to come to that, but I love that those options are available.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is that the medical model doesn't understand where to look. That's why they don't give it a solution. So the biggest
Mm.
misconception comes from the lack of knowledge and understanding from the medical community. So I don't need to bash them. I love them and they have their time and place.
Hmm.
But when things go wrong, they don't know what to do. And that's of course where functional medicine and what I do for my profession comes into place.
Yes, yes, yes. So now, miscarriages, young women, older women, like I got the same kind of wisdom that you just gave here from my OB when I miscarried. She made sure that I understood that miscarriages happen to women of all ages. So
Yes.
if a woman is older and has a miscarriage, should she assign it to her age?
Definitely not. So the first thing is natural biology is I guarantee every one of us have had a miscarriage and didn't know it. So that's how common a regular miscarriage are. So the body tries to put a baby in there and it's like, oopsie, wrong time. And then maybe you just thought your period that month was a few days late. So this is,
Mhm.
common scientific knowledge that everyone probably has had at least one. So
Wow.
yeah, it's really interesting. What it is when that occurs, now not necessarily some of the things we're going to talk about in this webinar, but the reason is like the body needed a little bit more help and didn't get it. And so it looked at as more of a trial and error and did just a natural cleansing and, just got rid of the tissue. And that's why I said that's where you can't read into it any more than just that. So it's a natural process, just like anything else. You're killing off liver cells every day. You're killing off heart cells every day. You're killing off brain cells every day. And we don't put super significance on that. It's just we have to, like in a very positive way, put the uterus a little bit more in that perspective. So the difference is age. Everything just gets more difficult with age. So whether that is going to be you're going to try and be, Mrs. America, or you're going to win the triathlon or whatever it is, age is always against you just because the sheer fact your body parts are older. So
Yeah.
it doesn't make impossible. It just means that the estimation of effort, the preparation and planning, your discipline is going to
Mhm.
unfortunately have to be more than when you're 22. So that
Mhm.
is the key difference is just the parameters in which you have to work in. The reason, again, physiologically for the miscarriage is the same no matter what the age. And it really comes down to just why did the body choose not to carry to term? And whatever that is, let's go fix it.
I love that. I love that. Okay. What do most women not realize about their health before pregnancy that can silently set them up for miscarriage or prevent them from carrying full term?
Yeah, great question there.
Yeah.
So the first thing is we keep talking about these root causes. There has to be some quote missing underlying root cause that no one has identified and or they just don't know where to look. Now that's very broad, so I'll give you some specifics. So are we looking at a hormone imbalance? The problem with that is that's where the medical model stops. If it doesn't show up with estrogen, progesterone, and possibly testosterone or a few of the other key hormones, nobody looks any further. Just by sheer definition, do you realize you actually have 67 different hormones in your body that really, when we talk about balancing hormones, is really how it should be approached. And again, that's for any
Seven.
woman at any age with any hormone situation. So that's a key is looking at the broader definition of a hormone imbalance that might be underlying as the true root cause.
Okay.
Um, the second most a common one or key one to look at is a nutritional deficiency. So let's take a look at the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients you need to maintain a thick and solid uterus lining. And possibly you didn't have enough vitamin A or chromium or zinc or whatever the case may be. So there were one or two raw materials to create the beautiful uterine nest, so to speak, and you ran out of some of those raw materials. So nutritional deficiencies, number two.
Hmm.
And then third, not exactly related, but very important, is how much I'm finding out your gut and the whole gut microbiome really has to do with your entire body functioning in complete harmony. So, of course, you could be looking at the hormones, you could be looking at the nutritional deficiencies, but interestingly enough, a clinical pearl, I have handled more infertility with gut issues that you would be surprised if I actually did the numbers and counted that up. So that's a shocking and surprising one, but it's a key one,
It's
surprisingly enough.
gut is such a hot topic too. So, and it's one
Yes,
of the things I think that's one of the organs that really does let you know if something's wrong, generally
yeah,
speaking. So what,
absolutely.
given, because I understand this and I always tell women, like, because they ask me all the time, what supplements did you take? What supplements did you take? And I'm like, well, I can tell you, I don't mind to share. I'll give you links to everything. But if your
Yes,
gut isn't working, first of all, you don't even know what you need. Like what I took and what you need are not even the same
absolutely,
thing. But two,
absolutely.
if your gut
Yes.
health, what are you absorbing anyway?
Exactly, exactly. So, what I have noticed, this is true for every situation. Again, I know we're concentrating on, miscarriages, conception, older pregnancies, etc. But a universal truth that I practice in with all of my patients is that you need to be specific, and your health situation is an algorithm, meaning that it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's that A minus b to the second power plus q times, pi at 3.14. I know that's a silly example, but that is the whole idea behind doing a personalized functional medicine program prior to trying to achieve, because you're absolutely right. So if you don't know what the problem is, it doesn't matter what worked for your neighbor or for you. What if that's not your problem? So again, I always try and come up with silly, simple examples. So let's say you and I were making our world famous spaghetti sauce, and we're kind of cooking and in two different parts of the kitchen. I don't know your recipe and you don't know mine, and then a third party bystander would come by and taste both of our recipes. There is a good chance what they don't like about either of our pots of spaghetti sauce is because you don't have enough salt and I didn't use enough oregano. So imagine if this master chef gave you the incorrect advice. He would just make your sauce worse, and mine would be now it already had enough salt, but if he recommended more salt, because that's what the cookie cutter salt recipe does, or that's what the master chef does, if you don't find out what was done correctly or incorrectly, you're just going to make matters worse. And
Mhm.
that is true for vitamins and nutrition. So I unfortunately am personally against all of this online social media influencer kind of approach and taking advice from people who aren't, professionals. No offense to you. I know you want to help women. Like you said, you're willing to share, but you
Mhm.
always use the caveat, I don't know if it's going to work for you. So nutrition is not something you can do slapdash, based on something you doom scrolled at 2 in the morning. You wouldn't do it with an appliance in your home. You wouldn't do it with your car. My question is why are you doing with the most precious thing you have, which is your body?
And I think it's because of the distrust and not
Yes.
know it's the distrust of the medical system. And unfortunately, well, the successful lady who actually did it becomes more trustworthy and more friendly.
Yes.
And this is why, but this is why I formed this community, and
Yes.
I direct to so many different practitioners because of every one of you will have something different or a different approach that will appeal to a certain lady.
Yes.
In my I just it's like, yeah, I am the influencer on the street, and I'll be like, I took this, I took this, I took that. I don't know if it'll work for you. I took it for, I was never even trying to get pregnant. I took these things because they made me feel better. If you want to feel better, here's the link. But if you're this age trying to get pregnant, for heaven's sake, please
Yes.
talk to
Yes.
talk to a professional.
So
And that's why I have
exactly.
this community, and I do this because I'm like, I will find all the practitioners who will respect your journey and not make you wrong for wanting a baby at this age, but who can actually help you for real.
Correct. Correct.
It's
So
so
yeah, you
important.
you you hit on a key point there. It really does come down to trust, and it is so unfortunate that you can trust a mechanic to fix your car, like we just talked about, or you can trust the AC guy to check, to handle your central air. But when it comes to health and health situations, you can't trust the person who supposedly has the degree in doing exactly that. It is so unfortunate.
It is. It is. These medical
Mhm.
professionals, some of them are mean.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
mean, so it's not even that they can't even be trusted with their body, can be trusted with your emotions during the process. And so
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, that's where I think functional medicine definitely should be the leader in everyone, especially women's issues. Function, if you're going to reach out to someone, that's where I of course would encourage you to start. And truthfully, all functional medicine is bringing back the brilliance and the knowledge we had hundreds and thousands of years ago, going back to whatever age of the herbs, the apothecary shops, even the traditional women who were called, the Wiccans and the wizards. This was before, they got labeled witches. And we all know what happened to them.
yeah.
But really, the root word of, a pharmacopoeia and Wiccan and all that has to go back with doing, applying, and being a teacher of nature. So, that's the Latin derivative of all those words. And so, all I'm trying to do is get back the brilliance we have lost, for centuries now.
When we are glad about it. We are glad
Yes.
about it. So now, really quick, one
Mhm.
thing that is coming to light is the health of the man's sperm, right?
Yes.
So some I have some women in there like they had 5 miscarriages and they fixed this and they did this, but my husband's sperm is perfect. We had it checked and they say it's perfect. So
Mhm.
where does that come into the equation?
The first problem, and nobody's looking at, is their definition of perfect. And and again, not invalidating the man or the testing or what they had done, is that if you're using modern day scores because of the deterioration of health throughout the world, is the definition of perfect is no longer perfect.
Mm,
Um, what really got us into trouble, and I'll just go off on a tangent just for a moment here, is the deterioration of the quality of our food and what we have done to our soil in order to make cheap, easy, mass-produced foods of any kind. It doesn't matter if it's corn or soy or cows or, just pick your food item.
yeah.
What happened though is that the nutritive value of the soil, it went from being 100%, and it's probably down to about 30%. So for every bite you eat, you're getting about 70% less here in 2025 than you
Wow.
probably did in 1925 and even 1825. So really, that is strike one against the man or the woman, without even talking specifics. So if you take that into consideration, is the normal sperm count from 100 years ago and the motility from 100 years ago, these scores are much different. And so what we're considering now normal as part of the problem is that it is not perfect. It is already far less than it was just 100 years ago. So the first problem is your definition of perfect or normal is completely incorrect. And so that's always the first place I look is what did they, people are like, oh, I went to the doctor and everything was normal. My first thing is get me a copy of that lab test and I want to see what they're considering normal. And most of the time it's in an unacceptable range. So
Hmm.
the answer to that then is the man's health is as important as the woman's, of course. And all of this really comes down to improperly feeding the machine. Not enough of the good nutrients, probably some nutritional deficiencies, and without blaming your genetics, just ruling out any kind of genetic predisposition. So that's always the key areas that I look at is your diet, lifestyle, nutritional deficiencies, and your genetic profile. They're the four key pillars, let's say, of preventing any kind of, pregnancy, infertility, miscarriage situation, or, addressing those deficiencies in both the man and the woman.
Yes. Okay, good. So that's good that the men get involved too, because
Yes,
I'm like,
absolutely.
ladies, it takes two.
It really does. It really does. So yeah, just the more things that you can cross off as a done, the faster and easier this will occur. The overwhelming part comes from my patients, speaking personally, is how many things that includes. Because everyone's like, oh, well, I'll do A, B, and C. And they come to me and my new patient exam, and I'm like, okay, there's a D, an E, an F, a G, there's an HI, there's a J, and a K. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be an L, an M, an N, an O, and a P. And they're like, oh my goodness. They had no idea, like I said, the estimation of what it was really going to take. And that's again not making, just, oh, forget it, I won't bother trying. It's just unfortunately, again, when you truly understand the biochemistry and physiology of the body, is that's my first question always, no matter what symptom you come to me with as a new patient, is I want to handle X. And my immediately question is why? And if I, how important is this to you and how serious are you about doing something about it? Because I'm just here to let the cat out of the bag. It's going to be way more than you hoped or expected. So once we get through that conversation, then it's smooth sailing, but that's what you're running into.
Well, yeah, and you said at the beginning, discipline. And
Ugh, yes.
I've had another practitioner say it as well. Like if you're trying to have a baby after 40, the reality is she's like, whatever you're doing, you're going to 10x it in the
Absolutely.
in the
Absolutely.
amount of discipline required to really make this happen, And that's why I went, I shouldn't say that's why I went, but I chose
Mhm.
to let go, let God, because I was just like, I know
Yes.
me.
Yes.
I'm like, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. This baby just has to come here on his or her own fruition, and we're gonna go on about life. But
Absolutely.
and then I got the baby, and so I was healthy enough.
Yes.
But I think that when women like are really actively trying, they do have to confront, as you said, the estimation of effort that it really is going to take to really
Yes.
improve their odds. It's no small thing. So, I mean, you've touched on this a bit, but
Hmm.
how much can diet and nutrition and lifestyle changes really make on preventing a miscarriage and carrying to full term? Because those are two things, preventing a miscarriage and then
Yes.
carrying to term.
Very.
Yeah.
My opinion from what I do, and like I said, all the research and what we have forgotten as a civilization is it's 100%. It literally is 100%. As long as, two things, of course, there's always a caveat. There is no structural deformity that, you've had since birth that would just make the, positioning of the uterus or something. So long as it's not something you were literally structurally born with,
Mm.
and then the only other thing I've ever seen but can still be handled is any kind of genetic predispositions for any kind of, a birthing situation. But even that can be handled with diet and lifestyle because it falls into the category, and I know we won't get into today, of the epigenetics. So your genetics are never a death sentence. They just show me the template of what I have to work with. And then we apply the exact correct diet and the exact correct lifestyle habits. And of course, nothing is 100%, but it's as close to 100% that I can get it. So when it isn't these other factors that they're trying to tell you that they are. So that, part of why I do what I do for a living.
Okay, and I have not promoted this broadly, but
Yeah.
what is your success rate of your protocol?
My particular protocol is 100%.
Yeah.
And that is because I only accept people that I know I will get 100% success rate with. So a comment I want to make is what's so important, which no other doctor does, that I think for me sets me apart, is everyone has a step zero.
Hmm.
And when you come to me, like I said, with whatever symptom or situation, the first question when they say to me, "Can you help me?" And before I answer that, I have a question for you. And
Hmm.
they're surprised by that. And they're like, "Okay, sure. What's your question?" And my question is on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you and willing to do whatever is necessary to achieve our goal? And if
Mm.
it's anything less than a 10, I don't accept them as a patient.
Wow.
So that has protected my 100% success rate for 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's important because I think we do live in a society where we're looking for fast fixes.
Yes,
We're
correct.
looking for that magic supplement or that magic thing that's gonna, but it's not,
Unfortunately, yeah,
it's that
unfortunately, yes.
equation.
And it doesn't exist. And, it just doesn't exist. And like I said, it's like, I wish if I had my way, everyone would learn somewhere in, grade school, high school, a health class that actually teaches you true health, not whatever that health class we all did, and at least a crash course in biochemistry and physiology.
Yeah.
Because if you knew, and I'm not invalidating any of our viewers, I just know from
Mhm.
personal experience, if you knew the basics of the subject, you would not believe about 90% of what you see, read, or watch online. But it's
Wow.
because you don't have this education or information, they're taking advantage of that. And that's true of the entire healthcare system, not just, fertility and women. But of
Hmm.
course, that's what I specialize in. So the key people that I'm trying to educate and give this crash course to are my patients. So they can hopefully, what's more important, this is my hidden agenda, why I said in the beginning about why I got into this in the first place. Um, I'll say this as lovingly as I can. My purpose and my goal and purpose is not to help you women. My hidden agenda is to help your children and grandchildren and great grandchildren we haven't met yet. But it starts with you. It starts with the mom, the person in charge, the center of the family. So of course I want to see you do well and have babies and achieve all of your dreams. I'm not being
Yeah, no, it makes me emotional because it's like it's into the future.
It is the future. I'm more concerned about the future civilization and the future generations. Of course, I'm going to help you and pat you up, but this is like no one's really looking at the big picture. I want to make sure, and I'm hoping your viewers agree, I want to make sure your daughter never experiences experiences, and your granddaughter never experiences, and your great-granddaughter never experiences. That is why I do these webinars and, I keep fighting the good fight, and I've been doing it for 30 years, is because I'm looking at 100 years from now. And that's, once we get, the women, once you get women behind a cause, as you know, there's no stopping us. And so that is like really, if I have a hidden mission or agenda, it's not only the one-on-one patient care, it's what I'm hoping to put there for people I will never meet.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I know there's a lot of changes that I've made because I look at my daughter, I had a girl,
Yes,
and I'm like, I want her as fertile as long as I
yes,
was. I hope that that she doesn't go through the trials and tribulations that I went through. I've been horrible at dating. It took me a while to get my
yes.
act together. But I hope it doesn't take her so long, but I don't want her age to be a barrier to her having a family. If it does, for whatever reason, take her a while. And so I understand
Exactly. Exactly.
and appreciate your viewpoint. So
It
I
just
want
comes down.
to,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you
I
something
was
as
just
well.
going to say, come down to planning, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It comes down to planning. It does.
Yes. Go ahead.
Now, let's talk about emotion and
Yes.
miscarriage. Like, what role does a woman's emotional state play on her ability to conceive and have a baby?
It's huge because we're going back to this broader definition of the hormones, that we only know about three or four of them. Again, for, those viewers who might not have caught us in the beginning, there's approximately 67 hormones in the woman's body that really need to be considered. So when your emotional state or your stress level is non-optimum, there are hormones that are secreted and then hormones that are suppressed when you are in that mindset, that mood, or that emotional state that is less than optimum. The key one that gets you in the most trouble is cortisol. So when you get stressed out, cortisol is secreted and your sex hormones are suppressed. So the more stressed you are, the less you just dropped your opportunity and your percentage by almost 50%.
By
And then
what
if this is
percent?
50, 50, yes. And then obviously then you have if this is a stressful situation and your mindset that it's affecting your brain hormones, you have the dopamine, you have things such as serotonin and melatonin. And one thing about hormones is if you can picture all hormones have a positive and negative side, meaning that if we had kind of like a seesaw, okay, I'll just do this. So kind of like this.
Mhm.
So each hormone, each of those 67 hormones has a villain or an opposite. So
Mm,
let's say there were 66 to make it easier. So each one of them pair up. So this means that if cortisol, if this is true, by the way, if cortisol and progesterone are kind of like the one that tips the scale, is if the higher your cortisol, the lower your progesterone. And then if your cortisol or the progesterone, it goes like this. And the
mm,
problem is it's not only, and this is the biggest problem with the medical model, is they're only looking at the estrogen side or the progesterone side. What about the cortisol side? What about the melatonin side? So a high progesterone or estrogen isn't always the true cause. It might be the low one on the other side and or vice versa. So high
mm.
cortisol always creates lower sex hormones, and it is one of the key physiological things. Like I said, if I could give everybody this crash course in high school, of
Yeah.
if you knew that there's a hormone that goes against everything you do, you would learn how to eat against or eat for the hormone you're trying to bring up or down.
So the first thing is you have to know in the first place which one is doing what to even know what to eat. Because
Absolutely.
in this perimenopause state, like I've been hired to promote cortisol support supplements and I've taken a few and I've noticed a difference. Now again, I'm not trying to get pregnant, so I just take
Right.
stuff and it either makes me feel better or it doesn't.
That is correct. That
Right?
is
And that's
correct.
kind of where I'm at with my life right now. And
Correct.
but when a woman is trying to conceive and okay, she's high producing, she works a lot, her sleep is whatever, she knows she's kind of got a high stress. Should she run off and take a cortisol support supplement?
Yes, and then we have to look at what else might be the real thing. And again, just going back to her mindset. So the problem is we don't know that it is cortisol. So it's obviously we can try that or start there. Um, but I just wanted to clarify a few things like what this long-term and chronic stress can then do. So it's not just cortisol. These other hormones that are kind of like the stress hormones or the stress chemicals can also interfere with implantation and fetal development. So this is part of where possibly why you're not getting pregnant or can't stay pregnant is because some of the hormones that you need to maintain the pregnancy, because you're in this chronic state, let's just blame it all on cortisol for now, is too much cortisol means not enough of those other things to one, get pregnant in the first place, and then two, maintain the pregnancy. So the whole idea is if you're living your life in what is known, and you might have heard this term, if you're living in what is known as the fight or flight lifestyle or mode all the time, you need to not be in that particular state. In order to conceive and maintain a pregnancy, you need to be in the opposite, which is kind of the rest and grow phase. So you're not going to grow a baby if you're constantly in the fight or flight mode. It's an unfortunate biochemical truth.
Right. It makes sense. The body is like not trying to produce life if it's scared.
That is correct.
It's
I,
counterintuitive.
it is unfortunately. And then the positive about there, like you're saying, is that then can take some of the relief and stress or pressure off of women that have had miscarriages in the past, and possibly the mother-in-law or someone was trying to quote blame the woman.
Mhm.
A lot of it, or most of it, it is definitely the nutritional deficiencies, and then the imbalance or the unknown imbalance of the hormones that that particular woman was dealing with, that she had no reason to believe that she had. But
Yeah.
now that we have uncovered this, like we had said many times already, let's go in and confront and handle that immediately.
Dang. Okay, good. So I have two more questions for you, and then
Sure.
there's some ladies in here. I'll open it up. So ladies, if you have questions, just start putting them in the chat and we'll get them answered. I hear a lot about chemical pregnancy. So what is a chemical pregnancy and the cause behind it?
The chemical pregnancy is what we were just talking about, these hormones. So there's actual, whether you want to call them either hormones and or chemicals in your body. There's thousands of quote chemicals floating around in your body doing everything. What happens is that conception or the sperm is present, and then there are messages via little molecules in your bloodstream and even hormones that immediately, when the uterus senses a change, it sends something up to the brain and says, hey, we're about to conceive, or we just conceived, or hey, we're going to be putting a baby in here.
Hmm.
What happens though is possibly it's one of, again, a miscarriage that you didn't know. The egg didn't form correctly, and or the sperm didn't take correctly, or possibly the zygote attached too low down on the uterine wall, so it was like it wasn't in the nice cushy spot. So when they then take a look at the levels in your bloodstream, that's where the quote chemical pregnancy comes with. There's proof that there were hormones released, secreted, and coming to the rescue to start producing this baby, but yet either the baby is not there, or when they do the gynecological exam, it doesn't look like it ever
Hmm.
implanted.
Hmm.
So it's true, it is a chemical pregnancy, because your body is filled with natural chemicals, whether you want to call those hormones and or not chemicals like we think, like chlorine and bleach and things of that nature, but
Yeah.
there are organic natural chemicals. So what happened is there was some miscommunication, and it happens in every organ, by the way. Your body can make you think you're having a heart attack and you're not. It can make you think you actually have heartburn and you don't. I mean, all of your organs have a direct connection to your brain. It's a two-way street. So for whatever reason, the body's like, "Hey, let's go," and then it's like, "Oopsie, never mind."
Mm.
So you have to realize too, the body isn't a perfect organism. It's beautiful, and whoever designed this thing did an amazing job. But just like everything else, things are never perfect. So
Right.
what you're just running into is the body thought a pregnancy was coming, and kind of sort of it did, and it just went away. And like I said, your body's doing that all the time. We just don't know about it because some of these organs don't give us glaring, obvious signs that it occurred. But of course, a pregnancy is a more obvious one.
Right. Okay, good. And then thyroid.
Yes.
So I heard from many practitioners that we need some good thyroid health. I know of at least one lady in the community where she was put on a prescription to manage her thyroid. So let's just talk a little bit about the role of thyroid. Do we want to
Sure.
medicate it? Are there holistic ways to handle it?
Yes. So here's where I might veer a little bit from every functional medicine, possibly doctor on the planet, is I don't put any organ ahead of any other organ. When
Hmm.
it's thyroid, it's thyroid. When it's liver, it's liver. When it's your gut, it's your gut. The medical model has pushed the thyroid ahead of everyone else. Is it important? Absolutely. Is it probably one of your more important organs? Absolutely, but not enough that it gets to, to be the star of the show. Um, Most of the time, the thyroid, this is the beauty of the thyroid. Most of the time, because it's such an important organ, it comes and rises to the occasion to support other organs and systems not doing their job. It's almost never the true root cause. You find it a
Mm.
lot because the thyroid, it would be like, let me give you a silly example again outside of life.
Yeah.
So let's say this is a good one. All you women will get it. So let's say, your daughter is complaining to her friend about her childhood, and maybe it wasn't the best childhood. And then every time she tells a story about, when I was seven, this, and they ask who was there. Mom was there. And then the next time she has an unfortunate situation in her life, well, who was part of that? Mom. Well, mom gets a bad rap, but guess who raised the daughter most likely was mom. So she gets blamed for something that she really wasn't doing. She was just there protecting and saving and nurturing and caring and making sure her daughter made it. And then all of a sudden now mom's to blame for everything.
Yes.
That's not how life works. You know that as being a mother, and you also know that as being a daughter. But that's what the medical model has done to the thyroid. Just because the thyroid happened to be there all those times, they're like, oh, it must be your thyroid. It's like not true.
Mm.
Thyroid is basically like the mother of the body, and she's there to protect you no matter what. My question is always, and this is what functional medicine is about, is why did thyroid have to come to the rescue in the first place? So
Mm.
yes, you can overshadow thyroid dysfunction with taking Synthroid and or even the natural one. But I will tell you, when you truly do what I do, which is root cause medicine and getting at the true functional components, the amount of times it's truly thyroid is maybe 5% or less.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's really only, so even a lot of functional medicine doctors still practice what I would consider a safer version of medical medicine, and they try and call it functional medicine. Because if you really just knew a little bit more, you would realize there is no organ more important than the other. So I don't have it for this presentation, just so
Yeah.
if you can picture this in your mind. There's a patient educational chart I give all patients, and what it does is has all of the organs in little rectangular boxes, and they're kind of strategically placed all over like an 8.5 piece of 11, sheet going like long ways, like landscape.
Yeah.
And in between each of the words all over the page, I have a solid line and a dotted line of showing you all of the direct and indirect relationships between each of those organs.
Mm.
So remember in the earlier, I had talked about everything is an algorithm. So a thyroid problem is a liver problem, is a uterus problem. A brain problem is a adrenal problem, is a heart problem. It's like you have all of these organs and systems, because this whole thing right here is a closed system, and they are all sending constant communications to each other every second of every day. It's more like if you want to take a look at all the organs on the inside, like an orchestra. So the violinist is listening to when, the drum's coming in, and the trombone is waiting
Yeah.
to watch when the drum, it's a constant, everybody's paying attention, not only doing this, playing their own instrument, they are constantly, when is my cue from everybody else surrounding me? And that is actually how the body works. And so when you ask me, just like, you asked me about the thyroid, that would be like, me saying, Chia, what is the most important instrument in the orchestra?
Right.
There is one. They are all equally important because they all play a role.
Right.
So thyroid, yes, gets the blame, because here's the reason thyroid usually gets to be in the first place is because we know the most about that particular organ.
Okay.
So you can treat and you can handle and support an organ that the medical model has spent decades learning about. They know very, very, very little about other organs, and then that's why you don't hear so much about it.
Mm.
So I would say I'm all for, when the answer to your question, a very long way. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
When it's the thyroid, it's absolutely the thyroid. And then when it is not the thyroid, it absolutely is not the thyroid.
And so, okay. So you got to know who's off beat. You I know who's in the orchestra really causing the problem, and it ain't always the thyroid.
Yes, exactly.
Fair enough. Well, I opened the chat up to ladies. If any of you have any questions that you would like to ask about your current pregnancy journey, whether you've had a miscarriage or not, if you have a friend that had a miscarriage and you heard something, now is your time. I'm going to give you guys a second. If you want to pop any questions in here into the chat, by all means, please do. Um, Otherwise, Dr. Lori has her website there. You can always reach out to her for a consult. You don't have to lay your heart out here. But I wanted to give anybody a chance, and I will even type it here in the chat. Does anyone have a question? Because now is a good time to ask. Let's see, I've got Chantal here. I've got Elaine here. I had Shauna. I think she had to check out. I don't know if she's still here. Let me see. But yes, do we have anyone here who has a question for the doc? You can even just say, no, no question. You can tell me. All good. That's fine too. Mhm. Okay, so Krista. All right. So Krista's asking, how often should we have these various blood tests done?
The first answer, obviously, it depends. Like, what are we trying to achieve in the time frame? So, depending on the parameters, definitely in working together, of course, in the beginning, becoming a new patient or getting a baseline. And then what I usually don't recommend is getting them any sooner than 6 to 9 months later, because that's about how long biochemically it takes the body to rebalance most of those levels. So, for
Mm,
example, something like an iron deficiency, if you found it in January, I would really give your body the benefit of the doubt for a good 6 months before I would go check in to see if it's gone. So you're looking at no more than 6 months. I usually do them around the 9 month mark just to be safe. And
okay.
then if I'm really concerned, I redo them again at the 1 year mark. Now, when you have a particular level that you want to really keep an eye on, that individual test could, of course, be done every month if you really just want to monitor it a little bit closely.
Okay.
But from a convenience standpoint, from a financial standpoint, it's just not realistic usually doing it more than just about once every year.
Okay. That's
So
good
great
to know.
question. Mhm.
And so Shauna is asking, are there certain foods to help increase progesterone? I had a miscarriage due to low progesterone.
Yes. So here again, another secret I can give you. Most of the time, the health situations that you have is not due to what you aren't eating. It's what you're eating that I need to tell you to stop eating.
Hmm.
So remember this thing, the seesaw? Okay. So the number one, enemy number one to hormones of any kind, of course, for this, webinar and conversation, we're talking estrogen, progesterone primarily. But enemy number one to all hormones, you want to take a guess of what it is?
Seed
I don't want to
oils?
put you on the spot.
Is it seed
Carbohy
oils?
carbohydrates.
Carbs.
Carbohydrates. Because remember the seesaw, the more carbohydrates you eat, the less hormones you produce. So there is an actual 1 to 1. So if you want more progesterone, more estrogen, it's not so much that you eat to bring this up, is you have to stop eating to bring the carbohydrate down. Yes.
Wow.
It's carbohydrates, and we're talking all carbohydrates. We're not talking just, sugar in the sugar bowl or, a can of soda. We are talking about organics, breads, pastas, rice. We're talking about anything. If your viewers know the macronutrients, the key categories are protein, fats, and carbohydrates.
Mhm.
So, protein and fats always work for you, and carbohydrates always work against you, regardless of the quantity. So yes.
Wow.
So what I would do is I am not an advocate of a keto diet. This, everyone's like, oh no, this is like paleo. Here we go again. I'm like, no, 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 no. What again, like I said, how I practice biochemically speaking, the
Hmm.
less carbohydrates you eat, the more progesterone you will produce.
So what are
Now,
some
the
of the sneaky foods of carbohydrates?
sneaky
Some that
foods,
sneaky carbs.
let's see, fruit. Fruit is a sneaky one, yeah. Let me see. Everyone thinks because it says organic, so they're like, I'm like, you need to stop eating so much rice, and they're like, but it's organic, and I'm like, that doesn't decrease the carbohydrate content. It's still rice. I joke, and this is a terrible, and I'm like, if you would, would you give your child cocaine? Of course you wouldn't. But what if it's organic cocaine? You still wouldn't do it because it's still a poison. And the same is true, unfortunately, for carbohydrates. So
But there's some
the
cocaine usually like, yeah, it's
yeah,
organic corn kit cocaine.
I know that's a horrible example, but I'm hoping your audience can see the humor in that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so first and foremost, yes, or carbohydrates in general, and then misleading yourself thinking just because it's organic that it's unacceptable. And the
Mm.
third thing, and this is remember what like I said, my opening question of step zero is how willing are you to change your diet? You're gonna be shocked. The number of carbohydrates per day is really what it is, and in order to induce like okay, so you have this machine. So in order to get the carbohydrate, let's say progesterone, as this much as possible, the number of carbohydrates per day you must eat is 75 grams or less. And that will keep progesterone at its peak performance. So you're starting to see now why I ask my new patients. So think about your favorite food. And then if I were to tell you that you cannot eat that for the next 12 months, no fail, but I guarantee you, you will have a baby. Are you willing to make me that deal? And if they say yes, they're a patient. If they say no, they're not.
All right. Okay, Shauna, we need to know what are them carbs you're not willing to give up, girlfriend?
Yes. Now, the flip side too, just so you have, is usually when you stop eating carbs, you naturally start eating more protein and fat. And then all of the hormones in your body all come from fat. So if I was to answer her question, I would say eat more fat, good fat, of course.
Yeah.
But it's not going to change the ratio unless you take the carbs out. So you got to switch it out. So
Mhm.
all of the carbs you're eating per day, you have to switch that with fat, and that would completely handle that progesterone situation.
So let's be fair and we won't
Yes.
assume good fats. What are some good fats?
Good fat. So good fats, what I tell my patients as far as eating is that if it existed on this planet 200 years ago, you may eat it.
Oh,
And if
okay.
it didn't, that's a really easy one. So that helps you know what carbohydrates you can eat, what proteins you can eat. So, yep, if it wasn't here in the 1800s, don't eat it.
So if it was a
So
cow, great. If it's an impossible
yes.
burger, skip it.
No, exactly. So whether it's goat milk or goat cheese or cow butter, or you have dairy situations, you want to make the ghee, where you take out the milk solids. Olive oil was here 200 years ago. Anything that existed on the planet in its natural form. Because
Mhm.
some of the problem with some, not all, some of these seed oils is not that they're a seed oil, is what they've done to it. Sesame seeds, as long as you're getting cold pressed sesame oil, is not, quote, a seed oil, even though sesame is a seed. So it has to be from the manufactured, man-made, totally obliterated, mutilated, form that they grow in, on a farm in Iowa or wherever it is kind of
Yeah.
thing. But if you are doing cold pressed sesame seed oil, that is not a seed oil by definition. It's the
Wow.
ones that they have manipulated. So yeah, you have to be careful of your definitive seed oil.
Listen, I love it. I'm learning too. So now back to the carbs. Somebody's trying to hold on to a
Yes.
carb. She was like, "Well, does balancing protein with carbs help?" And I think I know your answer now.
It does, but the balance, let's use the word ratio, the balance you need is far more separate than you want it to be. So, what I tell people, if you're going to use your plate as your guide, is that your protein and fat has to be at least 2 times the size as your carbohydrates.
Mm.
So if your protein is this big, let's say protein and fat, then your carbs have to be about half of that.
Oh,
So it has to be no more than a 2-to-1 ratio.
are sweet potatoes carbs?
Sweet potatoes are carbs. Well,
I'm
here,
so glad I'm not trying to be
let me
crazy.
give you all right, I'll give you a crash course. I'll give you a crash course in what is food. Okay. The easier question is not to ask what is carbohydrates. It's more asking what's not. So if you look at the food and it is not clearly a protein and
Hmm.
it is not clearly a fat,
Okay.
the only other thing by default it can be is a carbohydrate. So that's where you're asking about what are carbohydrates. So if you look at a piece of steak, what is that? That's
Protein.
protein. Okay, good. It's not a carbohydrate because it's protein. If you wouldn't, but if you ate a stick of butter, what's that? It's fat.
Dairy, fat.
It's
Yeah.
not carbohydrate. What is celery? Carbohydrate because it's not protein or fat, right?
Yeah, you're just
So it's
shaking
not a,
loose some, because I would have been like, it's a
yes,
vegetable.
it's a carbohydrate. Yes. There
Carb.
is no, your macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbohydrate. There is no vegetable category. That is a made up food pyramid FDA thing. Your categories, according to the machine, remember, we're talking about this biochemical machine. When you put anything in your mouth and it hits the stomach lining, your body immediately converts that to a protein, a fat, or a carbohydrate.
Mm.
So if you put in a sweet potato, there's no protein in there, very little, maybe a gram or two. So basically zero protein, zero fat. So what by default does it have to be?
Yeah, it has to be a
A
carb.
carbohydrate. So
Huh.
that is where so many people are getting themselves into trouble again, is these wrong or incorrect or incomplete definitions of healthy and food and diet and macronutrients. Is that, like I said, from the beginning of this episode, I'm not trying to say this isn't a very serious and upsetting subject. It is. The
Hmm.
thing is that if you actually knew how to run the machine, you would not be in this situation. So again, I'll give you a silly example. So I know you have a car. So you tell me, how often do you put soda in the gas tank instead of gas?
Never.
Never. Good. How often do you put honey in your gas tank as opposed to gas?
Never.
Never. Okay. So if you understand the basics of what to do for basic carb maintenance, if you understood the body just like that, would you ever have a problem with your body?
No.
No, because dad or your uncle or your husband, somebody taught you basic car maintenance.
Hmm.
The reason we have the health crisis in this country is no one taught us basic body machine maintenance. And
Yeah, there's too
that's what
much
we're
money in
running.
us being out of control of it. It's so
That is,
profitable.
that is, yes. So there's no money in the cure, that's for sure. But yes, that's why I go against completely, what everything, everything that's touted. But going back to the whole point behind this conversation, yes, is like the easier thing is not what is a carbohydrate. The question is what isn't. So if you can't look at it and know it's like, I'm certain this is a protein or I'm certain this is a fat, guess
Mhm.
what? Unfortunately, by default, the category it falls into.
All right,
So
ladies,
yes,
one, two, three. It's a carb. Oh my gosh. So somebody, so listen, so someone's in the comments. She's so,
yes,
what would you consider to be a good or at least better carb?
there aren't any. That it basically comes down to just keeping the total below 75. So let me give you another example. So see, you have to compare it to other pieces of life. And okay,
Yeah.
so here's what I'm going to do. We're going to use it. The example, the answer to that question has to do with money.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to give you $75. Okay. And I don't care what you do with the $75. You can go to Nordstrom and buy a pen for $75. You can go to the dollar store and you can buy 75 pens there for $1. I don't care how you spend the money. The rule or the guidance is you only have $75. Okay. The same is true with carbohydrates.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. You can do one item with 75 carbohydrates and then you can't eat anything else for the day. Or you could eat 75 celery sticks, let's say, for the day and get your 75 that way. So
Mm.
it's not a matter of, is there a better quality carbohydrate? No, it's just when it's a carbohydrate, it's a carbohydrate. Now,
Okay.
of course, organic and, not processed, of course, that's how chemicals, and that's a whole different conversation. But if
Yeah.
you're assuming everything you eat is just the good quality, there isn't a good carb versus a bad carb. It's a
Well,
really hard thing to wrap your wits around.
right. I mean, broccoli or pasta?
Yeah, I would take the pasta. You just can't eat as much.
Because that's more fun.
Yeah. It was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, if it came down to a quarter cup of pasta or a cup of broccoli, I personally, and this is why it's a shopping spree. I don't care how you spend your money. I'm just telling you, you only have $75. And then every day, mix it up. Maybe today it's all broccoli, and then maybe tomorrow it's pasta. The rule or the name of the game is that it just can never be above 75.
Okay. Wow. You
That's what
really
we have
you
never.
I don't know about you ladies. Like, are you kind of like your mind a little bit shook, like you're kind of having to reapproach how you look at things? Because I would have been like, well, of course you eat broccoli over pasta. Of
Yes,
course you
yes,
eat whatever over whatever. Like I can just go down the list, but it's
that is
that
correct.
example that you gave is absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
And every time I talk to any practitioner, I just feel so guilty because I have like corn chips. Like I can't stop eating corn chips. And I know it's so bad. And now I'm just getting ready to throw out my bag. And it says
Right.
organic, and I know that don't even matter.
Yeah, and then here's the thing: is like I'm like you know, I dread saying this, but I'll say it anyway. Usually the body will let you get away with one vice, like one bad thing, but it's one.
Yeah.
So it can't be Starbucks and the corn chips. It cannot be you vape and the corn chips. It cannot be evening ice cream and the corn chips. The body will tolerate
Gross.
one. And that is, you know, and let me just, and again, yes, I know this isn't about, becoming a patient of mine or a sales pitch, but this is, and I'll tell
Yeah.
you, because this is what I do. I mandate all patients work with me for a year, and now you can see why.
Yeah.
This isn't about me knowing the magic herb for miscarriages. It's not about me knowing the magic trick for your thyroid. The secret to my success and why my pregnancy rate is 100% is because you need to have your hand held for these mind-blowing conversations. This is a very delicate matter and has to be done in the most perfect of circumstances
Yeah.
because and I know you, and you will get mad at me, you will cry, you will, attempt to quit the program. This is why trust me, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know exactly what you're going to do to me. This is why the secret to my success is step zero is like, what are you willing to do about it? And how serious on a scale of 1 to 10 is this? Because I am about to take the next 12 months and blow your mind.
Wow.
Because, like I said, what we are being told and taught in schools and on the media is about 99.9% wrong because there is no money in the cure. They
Yeah.
have to keep you sick. And I'm trying to go exactly against that. So I'm going to teach you and tell you all the things
Hmm.
that they don't want you to know. So we can go into the whole conspiracy theory, what we're not, but part of the journey, by the way, with me, and you had mentioned before, go to my website. A lot of this is free on the website. I have an education tab, and there's all kinds of things you can do absolutely free.
Yeah.
So you can make yourself a very informed, consumed person in general and mother, and then, without ever having to commit to doing anything with me. But all of this is available for you. So I am big on giving you source material, by the way. So I know I can't do that today for this particular webinar, but everything I'm telling you, I have the white paper, 400-page scholarly journal from
Wow.
from the AMA, from the JAMA, which is the Journal of American Medicine. These are not just, Dr. Lori made it up in her head and this is what she does. I've been literally taking 30 years of my career to go back and literally dig out books from the 17 and 1800s
Wow.
and find the true source material. So it's been quite a journey, and I share that with you. So then none of this is ever take Dr. Lori word for it. I'm going to tell you what to do, but you're going to have a homework assignment of reading an article or watching a video as to why.
Wow, I love that. I love that. So we're going to be wrapping up. I in the comments, the ladies are like their minds are blown. Yeah, we're all like. One final question is, are your patients advised not to get pregnant during that year of working with you?
Yes, at least for the beginning, because I need to know what we're up against. Because until I know the true root causes, there is a chance you will get pregnant and unfortunately miscarry again.
Mm.
So once we know what the root cause is, and I call it, knowing the coast is clear. So once I know the coast is clear, it doesn't necessarily have to be a year. It's just it's from the day you meet me, you have to be willing to abstain until I am certain that the coast is clear. For some
Now,
women, it's 2 months.
abstain or just protect?
Well, like just protect her, yeah, whatever you need to do to like, yeah, not get pregnant. So yes.
Yeah.
So some people, and the reason I used abstain is like you just can't let that guy come near you. You know what I mean? So whatever your relationship is. I'm not here to judge or like, get into the personal part of this conversation. But
Yeah.
the thing is you just keep that guy away from you from whatever means necessary. But yeah, the rule is at least you cannot get pregnant for the first 90 days of being on a program with me because it's going to take me a good 90 days to figure out what we're really dealing with.
Now, is this for
So
women
yeah, it
who
would be
is this for women who have come
any
with a any woman, whether miscarried before
any
or
woman.
not? Any woman. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Even if this is your first pregnancy, is that, or you've never been pregnant. I need 90 days to figure out what has been done because you have to realize these things, whether they're showing any symptoms or not, have been accumulating for decades. So the woman who comes to me at 22 with just a simple case of acne has actually had a gut problem for a good 10 to 20 years. So it's
Wow.
never as simple as it looks. Your symptom, no matter how minor, by the time you get the symptom, 75% of the damage in the key root cause organ has already occurred. So
Wow.
everyone's like, oh, well, it's just a rash on my elbow, or oh, it's just a little teenage acne, or oh, it's just a little bit of bloating. I'm like, that's not how the body works. The body's main purpose is to protect you and make you survive. So by
Mhm.
the time it starts complaining, 75% of its chance to help you has already passed. So by
Wow.
the time you get a symptom, you already have a problem that's going to take like a 75% amount of time to get rid of. And I've noticed that the way the body is designed, it can't do that in much less than 90 days.
Yeah.
So yeah, people are shocked. They're like, I only have a rash on my elbow. Why do I have to do a year program with you? I'm like, because this rash has been in there brewing in your gut since you're probably about 7 or 8 years old. So that's the unfortunate truth of the body's biochemistry.
Man, you got me ready to book an appointment. I'm like, well, I got this
Yeah.
thing.
So I'll just give you
Wow.
like again, like you just one last thing. Yeah, the rule of thumb is I tell everyone 1 year of wellness for every decade where you had no wellness. So if you're coming to me at 35, you're looking at 3 years with me. That doesn't mean it's going to be 3 years of every week and totally, like destroying your life and making you cry.
Yeah.
But again, in keeping with literally restoring your trillions of cells in your liver, it takes 2 to 3 years to really get 50% of those bad cells to die off and 50% new ones to be created. So I
Wow.
can't force the body to kill cells and put new ones there faster than it's pre-programmed based on the innate intelligence and nervous system by design. So if I know it'll be 2.5 years until half your liver is, new, I can't make that happen any faster, no matter how much broccoli or ashwagandha or milk thistle or lemon water flushes you do. The liver is pre-programmed to only kill so many liver cells per day because of the design of the body in its innate intelligence.
Hey, ladies. Well, pretty glad you came. Here's some good news and some bad news.
Yes. The good news, like we had said in the very, very beginning, is no blame, shame, or regret on whatever part of the situation you're in regarding fertility. And then there's always something that can be done about it. And there's plenty in the natural realm, almost to 100%, that can get it handled. The question just becomes, are you up for the challenge of what it's going to take to do all of that? And that's really what it's all about.
There you go. And do you do telemedicine or do ladies have to come to you?
Both. It just depends. I love, even with COVID and everything that happened, I love the one-on-one. I love the intimate bond and connection with my lady patients. As for we all know this. It's like if you're having a difficult time in a relationship, do you want to talk to your best girlfriend on the phone or do you want to go for a cup of coffee or go to her house? And
Right.
that's the kind of relationship that I establish is you consider me not, I don't want to be your doctor. I mean, I am. I'd rather be more like your girlfriend that you come to me and want to spend some time with me. If you live in California, of course, that's not an option.
Yeah.
But we make our virtual conversations as intimate as possible, keeping that in mind. But
I
yeah, it's
mean,
all
I've
about the
never met
connection.
you. I mean, we've only been texting back and forth, but already I feel like I've made a new friend. I'm like, oh, she's
Yes,
amazing. So I feel
yes,
you do
exactly,
just
exactly.
fine as a practitioner in whatever means, but this is great. So I
Yes.
really appreciate you taking the time to be here. This is definitely invaluable. And for those of you ladies who were able to show up, I am so glad. I know this is during a work day, during work hours for
Yes.
most of you, and that you made it go right to be here. I'm glad. I hope you are too. So, Dr. Lori, I will set you free and I will make sure that her information is available when I upload the video and the description and everything like that. So if you want to go to her website and reach out for a consult, you can. Thank you so, so much. This is much appreciated.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.